You know that generation that grew up with zero supervision, drank water from garden hoses, and spent their entire childhood somewhere outside until the streetlights came on? If you were a kid in the 1970s, your reality was a world of shag carpets, rotary phones, and parents who had no idea where you were for 10 hours at a time. Society often calls this the latchkey generation, but the psychology behind a 1970s childhood created a very specific blueprint for the human brain. Today, we are breaking down the psychology of 1970s kids, the ones raised on neglect and independence, and why it made them one of the most resilient and perhaps most cynical generations alive. Here's the thing. The 1970s was the era of low-intervention parenting. Unlike modern highly involved parenting styles, parents in the 1970s practiced what psychologists describe as permissive and neglectful parenting. This was not always because they did not care. It was because adult culture shifted towards self-fulfillment and work. Divorce rates increased, and many households had both parents working. For children, this created what could be called a golden age of autonomy. From a young age, your brain was forced to develop strong executive function skills. You learned how to navigate your neighborhood, handle conflicts on your own, and manage basic needs like food and transportation. You did not have a safety net. You had a bicycle and a key around your neck. There is a deeper neurological effect of this unsupervised life. It is known as risk assessment mastery. Without constant adult supervision or safety padding, children in the 1970s learned how the physical world worked through direct experience. You climbed trees you could fall from and rode bikes without helmets. You learned consequences firsthand. Research shows that people who grew up with this level of freedom often develop a strong internal sense of control. They do not wait for authority figures to fix problems. They believe responsibility for survival and success rests with them. Another defining trait of this generation is analog patience. In the 1970s, nothing was instant. If you wanted to watch a movie, you waited until it aired on television. If you wanted to talk to a friend, you waited by a corded phone. This created a high tolerance for delayed gratification. Your brain learned to play the long game. Unlike brains shaped by constant digital stimulation, children of the 1970s learned to tolerate boredom. That boredom became the foundation of creativity. Without screens, imagination filled the gap. This kind of deep play helped develop long-term mental flexibility. There is also a shadow side to this psychology. It often results in hyper-independence. When you grow up in an environment where asking for help is discouraged, vulnerability starts to feel unsafe. Many adults who grew up in the 1970s struggle to ask for support today. They carry a mindset of enduring pain quietly and handling everything alone. Psychologists describe this pattern as avoidant or dismissive attachment. On a generational level, it creates people who trust themselves first and others last. The familiar whatever attitude becomes a psychological shield against a world that once felt unpredictable and emotionally unavailable. Here is where it gets interesting. Research shows that this generation, often labeled Generation X, is especially resourceful in the workplace. They were the first generation to grow up during the transition from analog to digital life. This made them adaptable and flexible. At the same time, they developed deep skepticism toward institutions. They witnessed fuel shortages, political scandals, and the breakdown of the traditional family model. Their mindset is shaped by cautious trust. They assume systems can fail and prepare accordingly. So if you are someone who grew up in the 1970s and still feel capable of surviving almost anything with limited resources, there is a reason for that. Your brain was shaped by freedom and hardened by neglect. You are not outdated. You are self-contained. Tell me in the comments, what is one thing from your 1970s childhood that would completely overwhelm a child today?